Okay, welcome back to the Modern Revolution. My name's Pete Deely. Thanks for coming back for another episode. As you know, the divine has smiled on us, weekly for a long time, bringing us interesting people to talk to, giving me a chance to expand my knowledge and perspective on the world. And it's no different this week. You also know, for those of you coming back, that we don't spend time telling you why you should listen to the guests. Instead, we just invite you to listen, and then we'll tell you where to find out more should your interest be piqued and you want to go deeper in what they have to say. So today we have Mr. Mark Kohl. Mark, thanks for making time to talk with us. All right,
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
peace to you too. Um, We'd like to start with the notion of what problem in the world are you trying to solve? Where are you bringing your energy to try to create some relief, some problem solving?
What problem am I trying to solve? Well, if in a global aspect, I think I'm here to help maybe solve confusion.
Okay, okay.
I don't know why that word just popped in my head, but confusion. I think we're at a very confused time
Mm-hmm.
in history. I think what I feel is happening is we're in this era called the Aquarian Age. I don't know if your viewers are familiar with it, but based on the background that you're sitting in front of, I think they get it. But this is the age of collaboration. This is the age of shattering old concepts of dogmas and religions and business and all kinds of things that we were, very programmed in, competition, sacrifice, these very masculine properties. Now we're in this Aquarian age of healing and feminine and being open to source. So the confusion, I think, right now in this transitory era or period, going into this new 2100 year era of the Aquarian age, is we're dragging. Some of us were born during the Piscean age and programmed, and now we're dragging into this open source way of thinking, where we work together instead of against each other, and it's not linear, it's multidimensional, and there's resistance and confusion, you know. So I guess this is just what's coming in right now is I think we want to bring clarity to thought,
Okay.
clarity to each person, to their consciousness,
Well, this is a
awareness.
long, okay.
Awareness is another concept. Yeah. Yeah.
So clarity and awareness as the antidote to confusion in a sense. And this is like deeply ingrained if we're talking about thousands of years of cycles. And if we're heading into something that's 2,100 years long, then we've probably come out of something that's equally long, I would assume at least. And I mean, what are the tools that you're working on to bring to people in order to help them clear their confusion and become more clear?
Well, the tools that we're bringing in, first of all, when I speak of these tools, if you will, or modalities, whatever, these are things I've actually done. So
Okay.
they're things that I speak from. One is opening up the consciousness, opening up your mind, being
Hmm.
able to be aware, pay attention. This is the age of not of experience, not just learning. It's actually, there's a difference between reading something in a book and actually experiencing the same thing, right?
Hmm.
So the age of Aquarius is also that, it's experiential, right? So through my experience, of different modalities such as Kundalini yoga, breath work, meditation, cold plunge. I also am, somewhat well versed in the psychedelic realm. And
Okay.
when we get into different psychedelic states of mind, we remove the confusion. We get clarity. We really crank up awareness, and it's just fascinating. There's, if you've ever had a psychedelic journey, there's no you can't describe it in, something as simple and basic as language. It's just, it comes in at the speed of thought, and you know what we don't know, you realize is infinite. And math, there's no real language, there's no real mathematics. There's just this multi-dimensional, stream of information, and it does create. It can create a desire to learn more and more and more, but it does create quite a lot of clarity in ourselves because it almost always shows you truth.
Okay.
And I think that's very important that we find the real truth. Yeah.
So maybe we can start with the notion of confusion. So, uh, human conditions have been with us since we've had humans, and so when you talk about someone being confused or the nature of confusion, tell us what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, there's so many things out there. I'll just speak from personal experience, but I was struggling with my personal struggles. This my background is a filmmaker for 30 plus years, and um, I was going along the trek, and that my identity of my directing and my filmmaking became my core uh, identity. It became who I thought I was, right? So when work was good, I was good. When work wasn't good, I kind of fell apart. But I had my core identity attached to that, but I didn't know, right?
Sure.
And so when depression came in and alcoholism came in, there was this confusion of just what is real, what isn't real, what is truth, how do I fix this? What's wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? I mean, the questions go endless, right?
Right.
So, but we have these modalities that are ancient and these medicines that are ancient that have always helped create clarity. And with clarity comes great freedom. It's like this big weight off of you. You find purpose when, Viktor Frankl, man's meaning. You find meaning in life. And when we find purpose and we're not confused of which way to go, what to do, and we want to jump out of bed in the morning, then you're on the right path, because then you're not reaching outside of yourself for answers. You're not reaching outside of yourself for happiness. You're not reaching outside of yourself for, anything. And when we get to that state, that's somewhat of a mastery, because then we're self-reliant, and we don't need a chemical or a person or a new car or something else to create satisfaction, joy, and happiness.
You've had,
And I believe we're all here for a reason.
yeah, I mean, your life included, I'm much more familiar with all of the successes that you had, right? So, I mean, you had a lot of attention given to you by virtue of people recognizing your talent and your talent finding a place in the world where others um, saw it. And, to the degree that was punctuated by things that didn't serve you well, alcoholism and addiction, was there, would there have been a road that didn't include that? Like, did you need a road in which achieved and received external validation that was something you could hold on to before you found that center where you could only work, where you only needed to work from within yourself? Was it a prerequisite to land where you are, or did you go through the sufferings of being attached to things outside yourself unnecessarily? Because it seems to me that some of your journey must be, as you say, we're here for a reason. And generally speaking, we go on a journey for a reason. And your journey had this great set of external things that must have created a pretty powerful identity. So I'm curious, if you had come to this conclusion earlier in your life, would that have even been possible?
Um, that's a really excellent question. I really firmly believe everything happens for a reason, right?
Right.
So you kind of, like in nature or anything, you have to kind of earn your stripes, right?
Hmm.
So it's been shown to me on like psychedelic journeys now that like this 10 years of rehabs and therapy and all the things that I was told to do that would help me. Um, that really was, back then it was like life-threatening struggle. But I
Right.
realize now that is absolutely necessary for who I am today. It's like boot camp. it was a training.
Right.
And I'm mentally stronger, I'm physically stronger, I reversed aging. All the things they say you can't do is like, these are belief systems that need to be cracked, right? So I think we do have to go, like, you have to have a contrast, right? If everything's good all the time, if the
Right.
sun's out all the time, you would never know it's day, right? You have to have night to know
Right.
there's day, right? So you have to have adversity or struggle or shadow to know that there's joy, right? And they come in equal parts, I believe. Um, so I'm, when you sometimes go to alcoholic meetings or whatever, AA, and I don't go much anymore, but they used to say I'm a grateful alcoholic, and I always just like, what? Why would you be grateful for this?
Yeah.
Like
Right. Right. Yeah.
but now I understand that. I
Sure.
really do, because I see that these things are gift, and they're, I think, in the universal energetic field or whatever. I don't want to get too esoteric here, but they're tests, right? These are tests to see if you pass them or not. Do you resist desire, or do you resist? Are you going to crumble under the weight of this? Because the bigger the tree, the deeper the root system, and if your root system isn't strong, you'll topple over and fail.
Right.
So if the universe really wants you to be successful in some way, you need to earn it. You need to build the root system strong so that you don't crack under pressure when abundance or success or whatever that looks like comes. Because we know as we rise, no matter what, you have predators. We get attacked, right? And if you can't handle it, you're gone. And then
Right.
the overall mission suffers, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel it. So I don't regret any of it. Would I want to do it over again? Absolutely not. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so
Sure.
that fear, if you will, keeps me straight. It
Yeah. Yeah.
keeps me on a path, So
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, when you're around somebody who has real gravitas, it's rarely because they had an easy road. So when you're around somebody that's
right,
got a lot of, pull towards other people, it generally got there by things
right.
going in a difficult direction. When it comes to psychedelics, which are something external to a person, yet they seem to be a real check to deeply ingrained ways of thinking and behaving. So this is something outside a person that a person takes to have an experience that often jars them into something new. I'm just curious about that idea because, in a sense, this solution of creating a new framework comes via something external. However, the notion is you land in a place where you're inner directed. You don't need external things. And I find that an interesting contrast. So I'm just curious, like, do you have an opinion about that? I mean, you refer to it in terms of medicine, and certainly we have long histories of various cultures using different things in nature to kind of reshape someone's perspective. But it's outside a human being, it's not inside him.
Um, you know, the more I do this work, the more I respect that it's infinite. Sometimes I think it's inside us. Sometimes I think we're tapped into a field of information. Sometimes I think it's both.
Right.
We can talk about, maybe psilocybin for a second,
Sure.
because psilocybin operates on the 2A receptor system in the brain.
Mhm.
I think there's 16 serotonin receptor systems. We usually operate in the 1A system in the frontal cortex or whatever. So we rarely get into the 2A system. And the reason I'm saying this is the 2A receptor system goes everywhere,
Okay.
everywhere in the brain. It goes all through the brain, right? And we don't know a whole lot about the brain. We really don't, right? So, like the mystics have said for millenniums, they've said there's many, many rooms in the mansion you've never been in,
Hmm.
right? So when you access these realms, or these rooms, if you will, these compartments of the brain that they don't know,
Right.
who knows what's really in there? Is there
Sure.
infinite wisdom? Is there, what is it? Past life story? It could be so much in there, right? And
Hmm.
we tap into that, and then there's a another concept of, especially in the DMT world with ayahuasca, that you're opening up your crown chakra, your portal, and you're actually connecting to the divine, or what scientists are calling the quantum field or God or whatever. But the concept of all information, the akasha, past, present, and future concepts are all in there, all events, and we can access these through the brain. And the brain is it's an electrical system, right? With
Sure.
trillions of cells, and it's electrically charged, and our body has 60,000 plus miles of wire in it called the nervous system. So
Right.
we're an antenna, and the Kundalini energy is in the spinal column, and it's a fluid full of magnetic crystals. And when we do these exercises of breathing, we activate this, and we hit the pineal gland, which is like a transducer. So we can transmit and pick up radio signals, and if we're aware, right? So there's this is a big conversation. Did I get this download from the divine? Did I get it from inside? Is it a combination of both? um I don't know. I'm a simple human being, but
Sure. Yeah.
it's very interesting. And the more you do medicine work, the more you start to develop like a relationship with it. You come in sort of scared because it's the unknown, but after you start to do it, you become less and less afraid, and you start to be able to somewhat communicate with it.
Right.
And it's fascinating. Yeah, it's a
Did,
fascinating time.
does your life as an artist inform sort of your willingness to connect in this way? Because I think the life of an artist often feels as though, am I creating this, or am I the channel for whatever I'm creating? And that maybe there's something coming through me versus something coming out of me. And I've had a lot of conversations where people are like, well, I don't know where it came from. I wrote
Yeah.
this song and it came to me. I didn't really think it up. I just came through me. And in some senses, you take something external to yourself, changes your antenna, changes all your electricity in a way that you didn't know it could be changed. I mean, that's something happening to you in a sense. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like as an artist, having envisioned something, brought something into the world that wasn't there before, did that matter in your acceptance of these new ideas?
uh Excellent question. I think there's a twofold answer to it. There's a concept that we need to get our instrument or our paintbrush or whatever so finely tuned in the physical world that it becomes subconscious, right? So the concept is, you learn how to play piano, you practice for 12 years, and you get really good, and whatever, you've built the neural pathways from the brain to the hands that you don't think when you play, you just
Hmm.
play, right?
Right.
So I think we need to train the subconscious mind. Some believe that it is the body, into that stage or that state of flow, right? And then you can start the download work. I think the inspiration, because then you don't have anything getting in the way between what's coming in and what's coming out. So Jimi Hendrix or whatever, he would write songs in 20 minutes.
Right.
That's
Right.
because his skill as a guitar player had already been vetted, and there was no resistance from the information to through his nervous system to his hands.
Sure.
So that's the kind of the way I think too. So when I shoot now, I mean, I've been doing it so long, I literally go in a different state of being. Like, it's sort of a meditative state,
Hmm.
and I just flow with it. So I think that's where real art is, and I think also the awareness of that this is so important, is that we pay attention, because these little things in life turn out to be really big things if you're paying attention. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So we get so wrapped up, and any artist will tell you, if their mind's clogged, and you can't pay attention, they can't really perform,
Sure.
because you got to keep the signal clear.
Yeah. I mean, I think that notion of
Chasing
paying
the
it.
sun here.
That's all right.
Yeah.
The notion of paying attention, I think an analogy to that is, how do you be present how do you not miss what's going on? Are you living in the future? Are you living in the past? You're missing what's going on at the moment. And the physical disciplines for me are useful analogies to like what we're talking about in the spiritual sense. Like yoga for many, I think people in older days was the precursor to the other work. It wasn't the end, right? You didn't go to yoga and the yoga was the physical yoga to stretch and get your body. It was to prepare yourself to sit and to breathe and to, do the other work. And somehow or other, and I don't object to this, but that part's been lost in many instances. Yoga is sought as something that's an exercise rather than a preparation in some senses. Um, when you think about the different types of medicine you've taken, ayahuasca, psilocybin, do they have different outcomes? Are they for different reasons, or are they all sort of a version of the same journey? Like, are they all moving you in the same place, or do they move you to different places that help you understand things more clearly?
Well, they're different, but first of all, there's no no psychedelic, it's not, no psychedelic journey is ever obviously the same. No people, we're never the same people, obviously, and we're never in the same mindset, and the medicine is never exactly the same, and the setting is never
Hmm.
exactly the same. So there's that. I think for different purposes, I think ayahuasca is a little more powerful. I think ibogaine is very powerful. I've never, taken it. I've never used it. But for certain medical, like opioid addictions and really heavy
Yeah,
duty, brain. I don't want to use the word injuries, but if there's something severe in the wiring of the brain, I guess ibogaine is strong. Very very strong. Ayahuasca, like I said earlier, ayahuasca kind of gives you an agenda of what
okay,
to do, right? So it's like it's a feminine energy, it's a healing energy, but it can be quite intense, and it's not always great. But
right,
it's a purge. It's a purge of the mind. It's a purge of the body. People are like, oh, everybody's throwing up in an ayahuasca ceremony. No, they're purging. They don't eat. So what's coming up is water with attached to it some disease or some negative emotions or um, we know scientifically that negative emotions do live in the body as well, right? So it's a mental and physical and spiritual purge. And when that stuff comes out of your physical body, it's a purge. But when it comes out of you mentally, it can be not so much fun, right? But
sure,
that's the real healing because it's pulling out trauma, it's pulling out
yeah,
generational whatever,
sure,
So psilocybin can be similar in high doses. I find it to be a little safer, and the reason I say safer is because if we go back to when I was speaking, and again, I don't know if they can prove this scientifically, but the DMT opens this up
right,
in the ayahuasca experience, and that can be somewhat dangerous, in my opinion, because I do believe there is darkness entities that we are unaware of that could get in and take over the driver, jump in the driver's seat.
wow,
So
yeah,
that has to be done with a real professional shaman in a safe space. Psilocybin doesn't do that.
okay,
Psilocybin tends to connect you into nature. It's the wisdom of the forest, if you will. It's the intelligence. There's a system running all this. Like these are massively complex systems in the ocean and in nature and insects and everything is interconnected.
yeah,
Something's working, something's
yeah.
talking. You know what I mean?
Well, from
You
like a
know?
soil perspective, right? I mean, regenerative agriculture, you talk about mushrooms and the mycelium in the soil. I mean, the what's visible is just the blooms of these massive systems, right? Some of the largest things on the planet are these giant systems. And you talk about extreme uh, medicine for extreme situations. What I know about the John Hopkins research is they started with people in end of life circumstances. I mean,
Yeah.
they would give it to folks because they were at the end of life. And from what I understand, that was among the beginnings of times in which people started to see what you're talking about in a more mainstream manner rather than something that was happening where the boundary between is this people are these people taking things with the intent of developing their spiritual life, or is this just a party and they kind of overlay this spiritual conversation, but they're really, and I think as John Hopkins started to study these things, folks that might have had those questions, it legitimized some of the things that people have been saying for many years. I'm doing this as a way to connect to the world differently. I'm not out here having necessarily a party. I am curious about, like, in this intense journey prior to your coming to the notion that you're there to help bring clarity to people and clarity in the world. Did this happen incrementally over time where you came to this decision, or was there an epiphany where you all of a sudden realized, okay, this old way of thinking and doing has got to come to an end, and now I got to do things a new way, or was it more gradual?
Well, there was a couple of epiphanies. Like there was a moment in time where I decided if I was going to live or die. So
Okay.
that was one move. But then it came slowly because,
Right.
I had to change. I came out of a very dark hole and then when I came out of that, when we have, and I don't like labels, like I don't like labels of addiction or alcoholism because then it tells people, oh, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict. And then the brain feeds it and wants to validate that identity.
Sure.
But when I was in that, was when you remove the medicine, if we're really struggling, all we're doing is trying to cut off the feelings, with whatever chemical or activity. We're just trying to numb ourselves or change it. And I mean, honestly, what's wrong with that? If you're really suicide or unhappy and there's a drink that can take it away, you're going to do it,
Right.
right? So, but the point is, when you remove that medicine, you got everything that was all messed up, right? It's
Right.
like there's an
Yeah.
old saying. There's an old saying. What happens when you sober up a bunch of drunken horse thieves? You have
Yeah.
horse thieves. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So whatever issues that you've been pushing down, just pushing down
Right.
and holding in, they come up and your nervous system isn't ready for it. And your
Sure.
body, the chemistry is off. So you're this very sensitive person running around. And, it's really hard to rebuild. So you have to rebuild because your brain's all scrambled and everything's off. So as you rebuild this thing, it didn't come in, to answer your question, it didn't come in as an epiphany. It slowly started. I was just trying to survive for
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
years, and then I saw, oh, there's a reason I'm doing, because these things were kind of coming to me, and like I got this property, through a ceremony, and there was no way in hell I could afford it, right? There was no
Right.
way but somehow the pieces fell perfectly. And when I saw it in a ceremony before I bought it, and I was living like in this little room for 5 years, but it came to me that I was supposed to be here for a reason, and now I see why, right? So I think the universe, like I go back to purpose. It's then once purpose kicked in, and I was aware of it because I'm a little
Right.
slow sometimes. It clicked, and then I went, oh, this has nothing to do with me. I might be the vehicle or the spokesperson, but this is what we do for others,
Right. Right.
right? And that's why it was shown to me, and over and over and over and over again, my life. Uh, as long as I do this and that, and I don't get attached to things, it shows me that how we operate as a collective, the human, tribe. We need each other.
Right.
This concept of individual ism is not the way we're designed, right? And it's
Sure.
breaking the family unit up, and there's a big conversation, but it is very clear that we are tribal and that we are communal and we are social and we need each other to survive. And that's how we've done it since the beginning of time. I have a fire, you have some deer meat, come on over. I'll let you cook it on my fire and you share the meat with me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right. I
Because,
do.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So so we haven't, you know, I think we're just, this whole new age is a revisit of, where we came from. I honestly feel like we have forgotten the human we forget little children, they're running around joyful because they haven't been, they're there, they remember, they know how beautiful life is, right? We program and teach people that it sucks.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
teach them racism, we teach them classes, race classes or economic classes or whatever. This is all taught. We teach them fears.
Hmm.
And um we just kind of like just stumble along watching Netflix and follow this kind of thing, and you go,
Yeah.
why are you doing that? It's like, oh, that's the way it is.
I think
So
when some people, they get introduced to meditation, and then uh, they start to meditate, and then they're surprised that it's not 100% calming experience. I think, that I like that analogy, the drunken horse thieves. Sober them up. What do you got? You got horse thieves. I think as you calm yourself through something like meditation, then it reveals sort of all, you still the water, doesn't mean that the water doesn't have, old junk in it and stuff from
yeah,
whatever. So
yeah,
it's not a
yeah,
foregone
yeah.
conclusion that it's going to be calm all the time. In fact, I think you should expect to be sort of upset. Well, I think also that, just like in your life, you had a road, and that road included, getting attached to things that might not have been what you ultimately defined yourself as. It still served a purpose, and I think it's hard to organize a life, organize a society cleanly. It's just a hard thing to do, So a lot of people don't want to do the hard work of finding out what's inside themselves, and so Netflix and all the rest of it is as far as they want to take it. I mean, I think there's a whole group of people that's it. But there may be people who are listening who go, you know what, I know I'm yearning and I'm maybe not comfortable because I think that there's a different way I should be going. How might someone start to explore these ideas, and what type of experiences could they incrementally move towards that would show them how to get more connected to the things that can't be taken away from you? Because you can take away someone's job, you can take someone's prestige, you can take away someone's money, but the things that I think you're talking about, what you're rooted in, can't be taken away from you because they're who you are.
Yeah, that's excellent uh question. First of all, I think, you know, I used to go like, oh, this is work, right? It's also perception, like how bad do you want it is what I tell people. Like people will go, they want to change their life. And I go, how bad do you want it?
Right.
Are you going to stay on track? Because, okay, we do a psychedelic journey or we do whatever. And some psychedelic journeys, if they're really, really, powerful, it's like, fresh snow on a ski slope, right? And you
Right.
get to start kind of over again, but you got to like right away integrate into new behaviors, right?
Right.
To rewire the neural pathways, right? And it's not, if you like, I used to avoid it because I thought it was hard, and hard is just something that's resistance against what you used to do,
Right.
right? So if you're going to break a pattern, it everything's hard at first, no matter what you do. If you just want to learn how to play piano or learn how to do Excel or edit, whatever, it's hard at first, right?
Sure.
But then it becomes easy, right? So it's like I tell people, like I used to think when I pulled away alcohol, I would never have fun again. Oh my God, what a story that is, right?
Sure.
Like
Yep.
I have 100 times more fun, right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
So, but that was so my resistance was self-created,
Right.
right? It was so I encourage people to, find their, here's the good news. Like the good news is, when I was going through this, there really wasn't a whole lot of information. There wasn't, this psychedelic revolution. I mean, all this stuff was happening 10 and 20 years, even 30 years ago. But now we have this giant, revolution of healing, and there's
Yeah.
healers everywhere. I mean, there's a lot of charlatans, of course, but
Right.
there's so much information out there for people to make their own decision. But I'll just tell you what works for me. Breath work is a big time life changing thing, right? Breath work
Right.
is good. Um, Something that's super, super simple. I've done it every day for 10 years is a cold shower. Every
Mm.
morning, the first
Yeah.
thing to do, it just knocks you out of that worry, knocks you out of that
Right.
whatever, that state, and you just become alert, you calm, it releases all kinds of magical chemicals in the brain, you calm. And some sort of yoga practice. I'm a big fan of Kundalini.
Mhm.
because of Kundalini is not really yoga. It's more of a technology, and in that it's a lot of studying of the mind. But find what works for you, but just move, just take
Right.
action, as Marcus
Yeah.
Aurelius says. Don't
Yeah.
sit. You look at water. A moving stream is clean, clear, bright water, nutritional, right? You see a pond that's stagnant, it's full of algae and bacteria. The human body's the same way. We need to stay in motion. Exercise doesn't have to be a lot, but just stay moving,
Right.
because that's how the world doesn't change, our perception of the world changes, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So that's all we're trying to do. So simple things like that. And then I encourage somebody to do at least one psychedelic journey in their life,
Right.
so you can find purpose. Psychedelics, also, the three main things I say psychedelics do is they help find purpose in life. Like, why
Mhm.
are we here? Why did we get this gift of life? It's a
Right.
gift, right? So why are we here? What are we here to do? The second one is release fear,
Right.
right? And fear is what controls us, right? And most of it, and I say this in some of my videos, but 97% of your worries will never happen. They're manufactured by
Sure.
us.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the Buddhist headlines is, "We create our own misery," right?
Right. Right.
So
Well, it's
if
Ben Franklin too, by the way. It's, like it's pretty universal. Ben Franklin, says
yeah,
I've
right.
suffered a great many things, most of which never happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't, right? So we create them. So what I'm getting at is that all comes from fear, right?
For sure.
So we want to unwind that, and that's where worry and anxiety come from. Again, most of them illusionary. And then the other one is truth,
Hmm.
right? So truth and love, in my opinion, are the same. When you find truth, you find joy, and then you find love. So you cannot lie to the universe. You can lie to yourself all day long,
Right.
right? And you can spin your story and convince yourself and all this stuff, but you can't lie to the universe. And when it calls you out on that and you see it, and then you lean into it and you accept it and you change with that, and you start to live with integrity, then you start to love yourself, right?
Right.
Then you
Sure.
respect yourself,
Yeah.
right? And then when you love yourself, it doesn't matter what other people think, because you're doing the right thing, you're doing your best. Then it doesn't matter what they say, because you've already, and if you're not lying and then what does it matter what people think or whatever, right? So, if you really love someone, that means you respect them, which in respect comes from trusting them, right? And that's truth, right?
Right. Yeah.
So those are the main things you find. And with that, obviously, life is completely different.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Right.
yeah,
I mean, I like the notion of a practice, right? I mean, whatever that practice might be. If for you, you have a organized set of things that you do, and I think if you're listening and you're in a similar situation where you're yearning for something more, you're not sure what it is. I think in some senses the practice is irrelevant from the standpoint, if you devote yourself to something, so things will change, if you're moving towards something. And from my experience and some of my observation, the times that it's hard is actually not the hardest part of the journey of a practice, because in that difficult times you have the back and forth between you and whatever you're wrestling with is clear and obvious. I think the times in which it's the most difficult is when that subsides into something that could feel like boredom. And now you're doing your work, but the results are less obvious because you're already now through the harshest suffering. But now you have to persist, and you have to persist through that time where the work has a devotional quality in which you're required to have faith. You're doing what you're doing without evidence that something is necessarily changing. And it's only in that time, I think, that you can achieve the breakthrough. And I think that um, people give up on things in that when it feels boring and it feels like, well, what else can I get from this? Um, but then when they stop that, then they start to cycle again, and things come apart, and they're kind of forced to go through, or they, end up going through something difficult again. I noticed that, like, I'm a jujitsu athlete, and you have these times in which you feel like you're progressing, and then you have these long stretches where you're doing what you're doing and you're like, I don't think I'm getting any better. And you may not be,
Yeah.
but inside you, your body is experiencing things. You're becoming more sophisticated in terms of your awareness of how to move. You're learning things without being aware of it. And if you persist through that times, then you have the breakthrough to the next levels of one thing or another. And I consider that just a metaphor for anything. Like, my mother is a, you know, poet that's has a lot of success. And uh, we talk sometimes, like, well, when they write her biography one day, they'll say in a sentence, she woke up at 4:30 in the morning and wrote for 3 hours before she went to work. And that'll be a sentence, and they'll move on. There'll be no real sense of what that meant. That devotion of, I did this for all these years without in a vacuum, as an artist out there in the wilderness. Some people are going to want to know where to find your, how to learn more about you, learn more about what you're saying, get connected to these ideas more deeply. Where might somebody look for you? Either websites, social
Well,
media.
yeah, yep, we have a website. It's the name of our company is Frequency, and it goes under frequencycaps.com
Okay.
is the website. And then the same is on Instagram, Frequency Caps. And inside on our website and what have you, we also have, you can click and we find our YouTube channel that we're
Okay.
always creating content. Um, yeah, those are the main areas. I mean, we have a TikTok and whatever, but most of our education is on our Instagram and on our YouTube channel. And yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, good. I would like to encourage everybody to go explore what you're saying more deeply, and see, how they can learn about how to turn their life in the direction of where they want to take it. Become aware of what you actually want, rather than like how you're behaving day in and day out without being at the steering wheel. So, uh,
yeah.
thank you so much. I appreciate you spending
Thank
time
you so
with us.
much.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All
All
right.
right.
Well, I hope you were inspired today, and that you take the time to go learn some more about these ideas. And I also hope that it inspires you to think more about your own mission in the world, your own purpose, because the modern revolution needs us all.